I want to thank everyone for being on tonight. This is our first night of our mastermind. We may have a few more people joining us, and we've got a couple people that will not be at tonight's class, but they'll be on very soon. We're going to do our best to make sure that we stay on time, and this is designed in a master class like this or mastermind like this. It's designed to be very interactive, and we'll have several content items to discuss, and we'll have a good breakout later today. And the goal is about a 2 hour class. Make sure that we stay on time. The series is 5 sessions, but if we're going to enjoy it and the more dialogue we have, the more interaction we have, if we need a sixth session, we'll do that because the main thing, in my opinion, is having quality discussions and building a community and learning from each other. And in our group, we're going to have a variety of people. We have folks that are from the manufacturing world, folks that have run international teams. We have city leaders, we have uh, chamber directors, and then we have educators from multiple states. So it's going to be a good group. And if you will, we're not worried so much about titles because in this room, it doesn't matter if you're a young leader or someone that's been seasoned, this is the right room for you because it's a group of action takers. But if you would put in the chat where you're from and your name, that'll help people to connect kind of the different areas you're from. And then we're going to get started with just the master class. And this is our first class of the Impact series. Uh, I think most of you know me, but we do have a couple new people. But I am currently a superintendent and have been in education for 35 years and in a leadership role for over, gosh, almost 30 years now, and been blessed to be a HR director to lead some high performing teams. And along the way, I've got an MBA and just I've got a couple of different coaching certifications because I love coaching and developing leadership pipelines and help CEOs and senior administrators working on contracts, board relations, and negotiations very successfully. And tonight we're going to really be talking more in this series, setting the stage. We're talking about you and self leadership and self growth, and a little bit along teams too. But I'd like to introduce you as we go into our series. Before we really get started, if you will, practice one time raising your hand on Zoom with a little icon. We want to practice that one time because we're going to need you to be participating. And if you don't Zoom on a regular basis, or it's kind of at times easy to forget, or Zoom will have updates and things move around. I can see lots of hands going up. So that's good. The hands going up is going to be really good to help us there. And big thing we'll be doing is just waving hands, putting some emojis in, and then we'll have several times where we'll ask a few people just to share out some thoughts or tidbits if you really appreciate that. Because when we're sharing in a room and you have an idea, there'll be someone else in the room that can benefit from that same idea. That's the good thing about learning together in a group. Now, the core things we'll focus on in this session to uh, work with the class is going to be identifying what's called the critical alignment model. And by the end of the class, we're going to be looking at the critical alignment model from the standpoint of what is your dominant lens or what are your lenses that you use on a regular basis. With the critical alignment model, it focuses on being able to look at areas that you may be out of alignment, your stronger areas, and just developing an increased self awareness around your natural leadership style and the types of styles that your teammates have or team members have. When we're all aligned, then our energy that we have helps us to be able to have better conversations with our teams. It helps us to be better when we're working in scenarios and group coaching sessions. So an increased self-awareness is very valuable as far as the critical alignment model. One of the greatest issues that I've seen when I look at the critical alignment model, start talking to people, it's with the model, you start off by looking at your visionary, your environment. As a leader, you have to have a vision. You have to have a stage set for a good environment. Then you have to have structure, which is an architect. And then you have a dynamo, which is an implementer, and a collaborator, which is your people person. So to go back over that one more time, because this will be a new model for a lot of folks, and some people have heard of it before. But there's 4 domains. You have your environment, which often is your visionary. As a leader in a company, organization, or a family, even as an individual, you have a vision where you want to go, your mission. Then you have a structural piece, which is your architect, the person that can put into processes, procedures, structures. And then the dynamo, which is the implementer. You always got to have people who can take your plans and put them in a orderly implementation system. And then the last is your people person or collaborator. But when we talk about the CAM model, no one has all the lenses perfectly, but no one operates typically out of just one lens. We're all living in all the different parts, and our teams live in different parts. The one thing that is unique about the model is the last thing is people. And the reason people are last, and you'll hear me say this multiple times, is because people are first. If you have a great vision and you have a great system and you have a great implementation plan, then your people thrive. But if one thing's off, if you don't have a good vision, if people don't understand the vision, if they don't have good structures and systems, or if they don't have a good implementation plan, then you have chaos. You have people going in a lot of different directions or thinking they have clarity, but they don't know that. They don't have clarity. In working with leaders, I've learned that the leaders that I work with, they are some of the hardest working people in the world. But misalignment is often what hurts them or causes them to burn out. They'll work so hard, their teams will work so hard, they'll be going in a lot of different directions, pulled in a lot of different ways, and they simply run out of energy. They run out of steam. They burn out or they give up. Can I ask you this? Show of hands. Does anyone in the room feel like you've ever been at a time where you worked harder than ever before, but at the same time you're in molasses and you're not moving fast? I mean, I've done that. You just beat your head against the wall. You're like, I'm tired. I'm working so hard and nothing is working out. Now I'm looking around. I don't know if everyone raised their hands or not, but if you didn't raise your hand, then I bet if you look at your calendar, you can find some areas that are pretending to be progress on your calendar that just waste your time. I mean, if any of you had meetings like that or days like that where you go meeting to meeting to meeting, at the end of the day, you're like, I don't think I accomplished anything. That's the things that will burn you out when you're not aligned. And the truth that I know is you can't outwork misalignment. You can sprint, you can push, you can white knuckle all the way through, but at the end of the day, your energy, if you're focusing on the wrong things, you're going to literally feel like you're running in sand. And that's why the critical alignment model and being able to use that personally and professionally is going to help you to have more momentum, help you to have more energy. When we go into the domains of the model, I'm going to give you a second just to look at this because we all have a home base. It's our natural base. And we all have different parts of the model in us at different levels. But when you have a natural lens and you're forced to operate in a totally different way, that's going to stress you. It's going to burn you out if you're not careful. Or when you have balance, don't have balance and one lens dominates the others, that's going to also keep you in a situation where you're not in alignment. Alignment happens when your energy is distributed all across all the different lenses, or in your team, you have all the different lenses covered and people are playing in their talent zones. Misalignments where you have fatigue and it shows up when things start to falter and people burn out. But true alignment isn't about doing less. True alignment is what matters the most. It helps you to be yourself. It helps you to be aligned to your purpose. It's where awareness meets alignment. And when you have that, you have energy. It sharpens your focus. The moment that you are aligned and you're in a task, you'll feel like time is standing still. And raise your hand if you've done this. You get in such a zone, you're connected, you look at the clock, you've been working all day, and it's like 11 o'clock, and you feel like you're fresh still and you're full of energy. You ever do that? I mean, we've all done that. And I hate to admit it, but I've had plenty of days where I've been in the lower brain and I've scrolled on the phone too much or watched stuff on TV or just done nothing. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm really tired. And that's kind of how our brain works. When you're on connected to your purpose, you got your passion going. That's when you're able to play to your strengths. Looking at these quadrants, think about this for 1 second. Which lens feels like your natural lens? If there's a lens that's your natural lens, if you will, think about it, visionary, architect, dynamo, or collaborator. When you have your lens, type that into chat so we can kind of get an idea of who all is in the room. I bet we have a lot of different areas in the room. Visionaries, collaborators, got some architects out there. Coach, you've got a good helper there. Got a dynamo, visionary. We got a lot of different characters out there. And someone said, truth be known, I don't know. And that's the truth, though. The more you work on yourself as a leader, you can blend all of them in and operate in the different domains. But you're typically going to have one area as your natural area or two that you lean towards. Now let's jump in and let's look at the visionary. Who here is going to say that they're a big picture thinker, the one who always sees the future? Thumbs up if you're a visionary like that. You see the future. You can see 10 steps ahead of other people. Sometimes you'll have this crazy idea and you know it's going to work, and your team's looking at you like, what in the world did you just come up with? There are a lot of head nods. I've done that several times. When I first jumped into leadership, I'd be seeing way ahead of my team, and I realized I was driving my team crazy because they needed to have someone that was a lot calmer, could communicate with them better. And over time, I learned that it's okay, that it's natural for people to want to understand. And just because someone's asking questions, that doesn't mean they're anti-change. Just they need to have more clarity before they're ready to move. If you're a visionary, you can see the future, but at the same time, does your team see the future? Are they aligned with it? Now, on the other hand, if you're not a visionary and your visionary leader walks in and says, I've got this grandiose vision and here's the way we're going. If any of you had a leader that does that, this is so far out there and you're like, what are they talking about? Put in the chat, when you have someone that's so far ahead of you, how does that make you feel? When they come in and they've got this wild idea and you're like, they can see it, but I can't see it. I don't really understand it. Frustrated and overwhelmed. A little anxious. Very good. How does it make you feel? If you're not, I don't know about you, I'm a leader. I love change. It's one of my favorite things in the world when it's my idea to change things. But when it's my board coming in saying, we want you to change, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to think about this one. Can be done and think of how to execute it. Defeated. And that's where learning how the lenses play and being able to use them all helps you as a leader. Helps you also not just as a leader, but in the family that you're in your relationships, in your leadership in a church or your community. I like the shares. Okay, if you look at the signature strengths that we have on our slide, the visionary person, they're going to turn their vision into this story that people can believe. They're going to connect the daily work to meaningful purpose. They're going to see all these opportunities before other people, and that can very easily frustrate people, but that's one of their strengths. And after they develop trust, you've been with them, you can naturally, you're going to have confidence in them that they have a good vision and they know what to do. On the flip side, though, if you have a visionary, it's all vision and no traction, then there's times where you're not going to have the trust that you like to have. Blind spots, moving so fast that others don't have a clue, they can't catch up. They're going to skip the details. They may communicate the vision, but they don't communicate the how. Often visionaries don't like a process or a routine. And sometimes they'll have these great ideas, but they don't follow through. And then you're sitting here like, what should we have done? What should I have done? And some of their big phrases, let's think bigger. What if we tried this? This could change everything. There's a lot of folks, when they hear this could change everything, they love that. And there's others, when they hear this could change everything, they're like, oh my God, we're all about to die. Their big question, their big passion is, where are we going and what are we going to become on the way? Now, is there anyone on that would be willing to do this? Part of the mastermind is not just in the chat. Is anyone that would like to share? Have you worked with a great visionary? If you work with a great visionary, how did that feel working with them? How did they help you to get better? Anyone want to raise your hand and share? Coach, come on in. Off mute, Coach.
I have a thought.
Yes, sir.
And this is, it's a little bit about having a vision, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I know, 5.5, 6 years ago, when I was introduced in the library, like the very first thing I put up on the board was a vision of where we were going. And I've had coaches tell me that were in the room that, they giggled because they thought that it was too far out there. Like they couldn't see it. But what I think I've come to believe is this: it really doesn't matter if they believe. What matters is if they believe the person that has the vision believes. So if I believe strong enough as the person throwing it out there, they will eventually believe. They don't have to believe, but they have to believe with all their heart that that person believes. And I think that made a big difference in throwing it out there, if that makes sense at all.
Coach, that's very good. That's a very good share. And that person sharing is Coach John Perry. He's our football coach at Nixley. He's also won his championship in Mississippi. And our program is winning like 4 or 5 games a year. And Coach, what's the record right now?
Well, we are 11-0 currently, but we are 62-10 since being here, which is crazy.
I mean, we played for the state championship last year. And just the program is so different now. It's about a cultural shift. You have leadership classes for the students and just changing the dynamics of our program. So, I think a lot of that is if you set the tone with your own belief and you believe and you can see it, people will, you just kind of get the trays filling up on the ice cube tray little by little, and you get the momentum going. And now we've seen the entire athletic program. Now our theater program has leadership classes for the kids. We've got more leadership classes for kids than I believe any school I've ever seen. Thank you, Coach, for sharing.
Yes, sir.
As we kind of think about this, one thing I would say is we live in a world where there's always 1,000 reasons not to do something, and always going to be negative folks, but someone's got to take the lead and have a vision of the future. I mean, if you think about it, we've been on family tours before where we've seen the Columbus ships, and I look at them and I think, what kind of vision did it take to get on one of these little boats to go across the ocean to come to America? But there was people that had that belief, and there's always people out there that are rolling the dice and doing everything they can to make changes in a positive way. Okay, if you'll take a second to look in your workbook that you have, I believe all of you got an email with it, then it's been sent in a link. We have on page 4 in the workbook, and this doesn't have to be completed tonight, just a few reflections though. When you're looking at alignment, not just in the area of like a visionary, but just the alignment between the domains. What's the way that would be a good strategy you could use, or if you're not in a role, maybe your supervisor could use just to be able to improve their communication, slow down communication? If you're in a leadership role, what's the way that you could think about communicating your vision better to your team? And who's someone you could think about that you might need to just help with, just having a one-on-one with them, having some difficult conversations where you're able to make sure you're aligned and they understand your goals and you understand their goals. I've learned sometimes the best thing to do is have difficult conversations, even though maybe it's going to be tough. You're afraid of what will happen. And then you go into the conversation with goodwill and good intent, and everything turns out much better than you ever imagined. And then your workbook, I know you just received them today, but there's a lot of activities, and it's not designed around you going, this is not a college class. This is a class about you. Trying to give you a variety of activities so you can pick one or two here or there, and you can use them to grow and take small steps. And also, they're designed to be kind of like a seed packet where you look at it and there's some seeds you feel like you need to plant today, but you'll remember there's more seeds there when you go through different journeys, and you can use these at different times. Because leadership is ever evolving, it's always changing, and we're always growing. So
Joe,
anyone,
you said something about when you're communicating, like with your team and stuff. I've done some training with Echelon Front, and one of their big things was sent is not always received. And that's something that has really stuck with me when I'm communicating with my team. Just because I'm saying something doesn't mean they're hearing what I'm saying. And the message I'm trying to send may not be received in the manner with which I'm trying to send it.
that is one of the biggest things in the world, Casey. I'm glad you shared that because I'll be honest, I'm not the best communicator in the world, and I'll think I'm communicating properly, and someone will go in a totally different direction. So I've learned over the years, you ask clarifying questions, you have to repeat back, and now what does this mean to you? And if you ask the probing questions, you can figure out, oh, they're not on the same page. I'll use this quote quite often, and it's in the handbook somewhere, but Deming in his research with TQM suggested that 95% of the issues we have are with our processes and procedures. And I would say part of that is going to be your communication and the way you communicate. It's easy to say, well, my people are not doing it right, or they don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's wrong with them, but it ends up being they're not understanding with clarity what's expected. I mean, and we've all raised your hand if you've had that where you've communicated with someone and they went in a totally different direction, or you thought they should know it, they didn't have a clue. I've had that to happen. In the schools where you work today or any organization, you can bring someone in with a fancy briefcase and put them in a suit and let them come in and ask a bunch of questions. And they can always leave saying, Dr. Lowe, you have a communication issue. They'd say the same thing at Clever. They'd say the same thing if it's any other district out there, because that's just the one thing. Communicating with people is an ongoing challenge, and people are always evolving too with the way they communicate.
Dr. Loden, I've got a question for you.
Yes,
Given
sir.
that first statement that says, how can I better connect with my team and bring them with me when I'm moving fast? My question is, I think, when you're moving fast, you're either going to outrun your people or you're going to drag them behind you as opposed to actually bring them with you. What have you done, or what have you seen, or maybe even some faux pas you've made in that regard where either you're outpacing them or you've had to really step back and say, hey, what, this is a step I need to take to make sure they're coming with me and not, like I said, being drug or I'm just running ahead.
Jared, I'll say this. Early on, I was like a bull in a china shop. I was wound up, ready to change the world no matter what. And some of the best experiences you have are the hard knocks you get where you realize you're moving fast and people are frustrated and they're not with you. And just being able to learn how to gauge the capacity of your team and having people you can just talk to that will be honest with you, not the ones that are always positive or always negative, but this is the backbones on your team that can kind of you can talk to and you can kind of get clarity. And you really want to have what I call a brisk business-like environment where everyone knows what's expected. They know the purpose. They know how they serve and they benefit. And you have creative tension. You don't have all this anxiety from going so fast or apathy from I don't know what to do and I just don't do anything. But you want it to be that healthy where I know my job, I enjoy what I do, I'm adding value, I enjoy my days, and I'm moving at a good pace. And there's times where you have to slow down. There's times where you speed up. There's times where I've had things as I matured that I realized we needed to do, but we were not ready. And I had to be patient for 2 or 3 years to get it in because you don't want to overwhelm people or do too much at one time. It's easy too to find shiny new objects where people have money, especially in groups of money, always buying stuff. Here's new software. Here's this. Here's that. Then you change one out. And sometimes just doing less gives you more value because you can focus with deep implementation and take care of your people. Very good comments. And that's the purpose of a mastermind. I've got everything planned. We cannot cover it all, but we're going to cover what we can and have a little fun and ask questions because there's so much about questions. If somebody's got a question, ask it. I'm not going to have the answer to everything, but between in the room, we'll have enough conversation. We can have some clarity around it. And I appreciate the share outs. Okay, let's go on and we'll move on a little bit deeper. If I can figure out how to operate the slide without jumping through 3 or 4 slides at one time. Okay, some of the overuses and underuses of our good friends here that are visionaries. They're going to constantly launch new ideas. They'll overpromise about systems. Lots of big talk with little traction. If you have a leader like that, they come in and they are like a showboater and they can sell snake oil or whatever, and then they don't really get a lot accomplished. That's a leader I've had them. They frustrate me because they're so full of it and they're always telling this big stuff, but they just don't do a lot. They can fatigue you with change. And this is not just about a leader. This can be an organization. The underuse is if you don't have the vision, then you can get so tight that you're just focused on the daily routines that you don't see the vision. You don't see what's coming. You can often avoid change, innovation, or risk. You can get so stuck in the short term that you're not able to balance out that you do need to plan for the future. And you can get so stuck in the routines that you lose the meaning of work. These things become widgets or numbers instead of people. And a vision that can't be translated is just an imagination. And true leaders are going to be able to balance things out so they can meet the needs of their staff and they can connect with them so they can see the future and they'll build it with you. Now, I've got one assessment. I didn't tell you we're going to have tests in this. I figured it would all not come if you knew you were going to have a test. But I got this test for you and we want to take. So you're going to rate yourself. Number 1, visionary. What? I'm just trying to see past today. Number 2, I've got sparks of ideas. They just haven't introduced themselves to each other yet. Number 3, the future is taking shape, but it's still fuzzy around the edges. But it's still there. And then number 4, I see 3 moves ahead of everyone else before my team even finishes the first sentence. Do we have any number 4s in the room? 1 number 4, Richard? We got more number 4s than that. Now, Coach, you said you were a visionary a minute ago. You haven't changed your mind already, have you?
Well, I'm debating between 3 and 4, right? The future is taking shape. That's 100% true. But sometimes it's fuzzy as to how it's going to happen or how we're going to get there. So I would be a 3.5.
A 3.5. Okay, well, I'm going to say this. If you're a 3 or 4, congratulations, you're our visionaries. Or you're going to be real close to being our visionaries. And there's no right or wrong answers to this, and you're going to have different parts. And the beautiful part about this is it's not fixed. If there's an area where you realize you're so strong that it hurts you, you can adjust and work with just focusing on the emotional intelligence, being able to have classes like this where you learn from others and share with others. We're always evolving. And one thing about it, you're the best version of you today. And if you think back 5 or 10 years ago, where you were on your leadership journey versus today, how much have you learned? And the key is, as we keep learning and growing, in 5 years from now, I want to be the leader that my people will need for me to serve them. I want to be the leader that evolves and continues evolving. And I'll say this, when I started out, I was a young guy. I thought I've got to study everything because people think I'm young and I don't know anything. Now I'm at the point where I'm like the old dog, and I'm like, I'm going to keep learning because I don't want people to think I'm not learning, and I got to stay ahead of the young pups. So it's always a challenge, and you always got to be learning. Now, if we'll shift, if you're not a visionary, you might be this next person. This is an architect. So you have the environment, then you have the structure person. And this is a person that's going to really make sure that you have a plan. Now, give me a thumbs up if you love a good plan, if you love checklists, if you like color-coded things. Now, if you like color-coded, that's probably a sign that you might be an architect. Any architects potentially? We got a few thumbs ups. Okay. Let's ask this and let's see who's honest in the room, because there's got to be someone like this. You've built a plan so detailed that you actually have a backup plan for your plan. Do we have anyone like that in the room? We got some smiles. There's people like that. You may not be coming out and doing your thumbs up. I can see some smiles. Now, this is the flip side. Put this in the chat. When the architect starts organizing everything, the agendas, the folders, they even have a snack schedule, and they refuse. We're not moving forward without a complete set of plans. What is your gut reaction? What's one word or phrase you can put in when the architect's doing that? And we've all been around architects, and there's going to be some of them in the room. Put everything on hold. Plan to go to the mall. Frustrated and bogged down. Relax. I appreciate the annoy. There's a good one. That's probably a truthful one. Frustrated. Thanks for all the chat comments. That's very honest there too. Construction environment. We got all kinds of people in the room now. Okay, the architect's trade-off. That's very good, Summer. A well laid out plan is wonderful, but they don't always turn out so flexible. And what's said in the mastermind stays in the mastermind. Summer, I appreciate that. That's a very good share. Adaptability is a must. The architect has some trade-offs. They're going to give you structure in real time that you need. They're going to help you to have clarity. But there's times where if you overstructure or over perfect things, you're going to lose your momentum and you're going to slow progress. And you're going to miss out on opportunities because you don't have the flexibility. So if you're okay, let's explore this lens just a little. If you look at the strengths, they're going to translate your vision into clarity through structures and systems. They're going to help you to have all the processes that will help you to have things that are reliable. You can repeat them. You can be consistent. They're going to help you to have rhythms. They're going to help you to have focus, accountability. Blind spots, you can be so controlling that you don't have flexibility. They can be very frustrated if you're trying to get them to be. I mean, you can just see the person wants you to be flexible, and the person doesn't want to be flexible. They can at times cause conflict with each other. Sometimes they'll change numbers, just pure numbers for the sake of numbers, which you don't want to have. You want to have numbers to help you inform you of how you're doing. Some of the common phrases, what's the process for that? Let's get organized before we start. I've heard that several times. Any of you ever heard that phrase or a similar phrase? And do we have a system? Their tone, they're going to be very precise. methodical. They're going to be grounded in clarity and order. And you need architects. You need architects. I'm not saying we don't need architects. Overuses, kind of coming in with the same thing. Over reliance on data, and you got to have data, but you balance it out. Micromanaging, control, it could be equated for success. Other side, the other extreme, you don't have processes. You let details fall through the cracks, which can cause all kinds of problems. You make fly by night, fly by the seat of your pants decisions, and you just totally don't like structure altogether. And that's not good. Systems are not going to slow you down, but they help you to sustain success. Now, reflection for us, and this is coming from your workbook, but reflection for us is where could you add a little more structure or build in a little more flexibility? Just thinking about this for a minute, this is the types of activities that are so simple, but if you take them to heart and just take a few of the nuggets from our workbook or discussions and reflect on, reflection is such a powerful tool, but just thinking about you with the family or a personal or on the professional side, what's one area that your company, your group probably needs a little more structure, or on the other hand, needs a little more flexibility? And then what's one step that you could actually take that would really make that practical? Some where you keep most of your processes in your head, not great at writing them down.
Yes, it's not great because I can't be there all the time. So I'm learning to have to write those down so I can teach other people to help support my team.
Now, to give you a golden nugget, have been at different times the world was worse, but I keep it up in my head. A competitive advantage is that only 1% of the people have a written plan. Now, what's scary is out of the Dominican University research, if you have a written plan and review the plan, you're 42% likely to achieve your goals. Now, what pushes you above half is when you have a good thought partner, coach, mentor, someone that's your accountability partner. It can be just a coffee buddy where you hold each other accountable. But having a written set of goals is so good, but it's so hard. But that's a good thing to have. Thank you, Mukesh. And the one thing I've also worked with people on and seen people use have taught me is you don't have to have a fancy system. You don't have to have a fancy app to be able to kind of keep up with your plans and review them. The big thing is just having some goals and reviewing them on a regular basis. Chris, I like that. A great idea is going to dive out a great plan and execution. Is there a strategy anyone would like to share that they've used or feel like would be a good strategy for others that you've used that's helped you with being able to have a good plan that's helped to build structure? Coach?
I got a story that I think fits and is pretty good if you're okay with me telling it.
Your floor is yours.
Well, we know like if you write your goals down, it increases the likelihood of it happening like 42%, right? Well, the greatest athlete that nobody's ever heard about is a guy named Milt Campbell from Plainswick, New Jersey. Milt Campbell back in the day was an Olympic guy. He comes back from his summer going into his senior year, comes back from summer break, and his friends ask him, Milt, what'd you do over the summer? Well, Milt went and ran in the Olympics, right? Like Milt was special. He was a football player. He was like a judo guy. He was all types of special. But what separated Milt was not only did he have his goals written down, he had his goals written down, laminated, and in his possession 24/7. So if you keep them on you, like the stats even go up higher, right? You increase it from 42. So he actually would take them in the shower with him. He would take them everywhere he ever went. You know what I'm saying? So that's the story goes. That increased the likelihood of his goals coming true. I've just always remembered that story, and I've always kept my goals in my money clip on my phone because of that.
Coach, about the only thing he didn't do is have him on his arm and a tattoo, right? Sounds like. There's some simple things that you can do. And years ago, I had a mentor out of New York that gave me just one of the simplest strategies. And I use it every day, and I've used it with new employees. And I've had some people that are really good about being early birds that can come in and do their getting things ready in the morning. But I've always advocated before you leave every day, make sure you're ready for the next day. And I'll simply plan on Friday afternoon for 2 weeks, and I really have the next week planned out, and the week after lightly planned. And then once a month, I'll review and set my goals. And each week, I'm reviewing my goals, and not just what you got to do, but celebrating where you're at. And then simply every morning before you go in, check your calendar, check it in the afternoon, and before I go to bed, the big stuff for the next day, I kind of reflect on that too. There's a lot about the subconscious because only 5% conscious, the other 95% subconscious. So if I'm making sure I'm reflecting about and how good and thinking about how good the next day is going to be, that really helps to set the stage. Now, am I perfect with that? No, but I've used that and it's helped me to shift my attitude a lot in life. Okay, let's look at the next thing here. We've got one more assessment for you. So rating yourself, organization, what? I'm still looking for last week's notes. I've got a plan. I just don't know where I left it. And I've got some people laughing right now because I'm ADHD and lose stuff all the time. Monica and Allison to keep me in line with that one. Everything's mostly mapped. A few tabs and thoughts are still open. And the last one is I dream in spreadsheets. So we got Monica's a 3. Daniel, you're 3.5. Summer a 3. Brian's a 3. So we've got some people up there pretty organized. And Jared, I'm going to say working with you, I think you're better than a 2. Jeff, I can see that.
Just because I actually do dream in spreadsheets, but I'm just not very organized.
But sometimes there are folks that are really good at something, and you ask them, and they act like they don't even know what you're talking about. They're not good, and they don't realize how good they are. There are a lot of people like that just do something naturally. Oh yeah, because you're one of the most organized people I've ever been around. Okay, good, Casey. Good, very good. So we have a good, strong foundation then as far as being structure people. Good. I like the sharing. So let's say this. We built a plan, and even the best blueprint needs some action to come alive. So we've got the structure. Now let's give it a little juice and make it speed up. Here comes the dynamo. Who here, show of hands, who here thrives on action? You're the one who sees the plan and is ready to go. Anyone like that? Jared? Monica, you're gonna get it done. So who's the person in the room that your team calls when they know there's a problem and they need someone to fix it? Dynamos, you can usually find your dynamos by looking at the titles. We all have these quirky things we do that are not under a job description. Your dynamos are usually the ones that the boss knows, I don't know who's going to fix this, but I know this. If I give it to Brooke, she'll take care of it. Or Brian, he'll take care of it. David, he'll take care of it. They're the ones that they're going to get something done. Now, one thing I've learned from working with dynamos, you better not wind them up and let them go without giving them some parameters, or they're going to get it done. They may do some crazy stuff along the way because their ideas about how to fix things may be totally different. So if you want creativity, let them go. If you want some guidance along the way, you probably need to give them some guidance.
I teach my team one of the big things I talk about all the time is I expect and we want forward progress. It doesn't matter, like if we have a problem, we have to find a way to keep moving forward at all times. Like that action, that's what we strive for on my team.
Keep moving forward. A lot of dynamos. Sounds like you've got a lot of dynamos there.
Yes, I do. The industry I work in is very fast paced, and we have to react very rapidly. Most of the time, people call when they need a machine, and we have to deliver immediately. So we thrive in that action.
Now, some of the keys for the dynamos, when we talk about the lenses where you need the visionary and you need the structure and you need the dynamo and you need the people, one of the best keys for the dynamo is if they understand the purpose of the organization, they have clarity around the goals. So they know the mission and vision and values, and they know the structures and the rules. And you let them go, they're going to create magic. They'll take an idea that you have and they'll make it so better than anything you could have ever imagined. And they love creativity. Now, if you box them in and don't give them creativity, they're going to be miserable. They're going to leave you because they've got to have stuff to do. But when they know the vision and they're connected, they're going to work so hard to make you proud, to make sure they serve the people and serve the organization, and they're going to lift you well above anything that you would ever done. Now, chat prompt for you. Let's put this in. How many of you worked around dynamos? Hands up real quick. Like, had some dynamos? When you're in a planning session or your team's thinking about things, and then you figure out the dynamo has already jumped in and started taking action and not even worried about the details, how does that make you feel? Especially if you're in a supervisor role. I've had to learn the hard way that some of the dynamos I've had, because there's been times where next thing I know, we spent over $100,000 a couple of times with dynamos, and they're like, "Well, you said we needed to do this," and you're like, "Well, I didn't mean you were going to use it right now." "Well, whose money did you use?" "Well, I don't know. I figured you'd figure that out." So I had to have a little bit of a good conversation, a professional way about, you got to verify. Let me make sure I give you the account codes and everything before you just do something. But it's nice having young administrators that are wanting to please, and what they did was perfect. It's just they were really jumping in. That's it, Summer. As long as they've got, you want people that are going to take action. You want people that are not going to sit back. If they know, if they have a good heart and they're doing it for the right reasons and they're staying compliant with the regs, rules, and all that, you want people that are going to have initiative. That's it. I like that. When we talk about our approach to execution so it doesn't lead to being executed, Daniel, that's very good. Okay, when we jump in and look at our dynamo here, they are ready. Their big passion is what must happen first, and what can I do with it right now? They're going to jump right in and be decisive. They're driven by results. If you give them a goal, they're going to want to be. They're going to want to win. They're going to have momentum, and they also like accountability. They don't mind accountability, and they're going to have self-agency. They're not going to blame others. They're going to take ownership, and if something doesn't work out, they're going to own it. I love a dynamo for that. They can take your plans and they can put outcomes in place. They have courage, and also they have confidence. They have a lot of confidence, and I'm not talking about being cocky. They have confidence. They don't make excuses, and they believe in themselves, and they're going to work and figure things out. Their sweetest gift is momentum. And some of the blind spots they have, they're going to act before they align with others. They're going to push the pace beyond the team's capacity. They can often, because they love being busy, if you don't have them focused on the right things, they'll be so busy and not accomplish anything. And you have to watch out, because overuse of the dynamo is where you lose your people. That's it, Brooke. You can feel momentum building. Every breakthrough starts with someone bold enough to take the first step. Some of their phrases they love using is let's get moving. Why don't we need to overthink it? We don't need to overthink it. And just tell me what needs to be done. They're very bold, they're action oriented, and they love some momentum. Now, on the downsides with overuse, they may do some things about thinking. They may overanalyze. Well, they'll do some things about thinking. They'll overcommit resources. They may not know when to quit. There's times where you have to realize you need to adjust or back up. They may not do that. And that's something you have to watch out with. They'll be urgent over clear, and they love adrenaline. Gosh, they love adrenaline. Let a fire hit a building or some kind of catastrophe hit, and that just gives them a surge. COVID was probably something they would love because they could fly by the seat of their pants to take action. On the negative sides of an organization or individual situation, if you overanalyze, you can start overanalyzing and just paralyze things. There's another group of people that will avoid ownership and make excuses. Where the dynamo loves accountability, there's other folks that just don't want accountability. And then stalling or waiting to be perfect with the timing. And then your dynamos, they're going to be powerful. They're going to move mountains. But the key to being a good leader is using the dynamo and the other lenses and being able to balance leadership with knowing when to press the gas and when to pause and put the brakes on. And then balancing it out with that creative tension that we talked about earlier. Now we have an activity here. We're not doing a test just yet, but this is kind of a one less or one more activity where you take just a moment and you reflect. But what's one thing from the lens of being a dynamo or balancing things out? What's one thing I can do less of that drains or creates a lot of emotion about progress? And then on the other side, what's one thing that I can do more of that builds focus and alignment? And just think about it and write a quick note. What would be one thing that, this is on page 8 in your workbook, but what's one thing that you really just drains you that you could figure out how to do less of? And then one thing that it charges your batteries if you were able to do more of it, that would really help you to be more complete. Casey, I like your comment. Best leaders I've ever worked with have been able to navigate through moving through all these different types and styles to create an environment where the person being led feels comfy. Casey, that would be one of the main goals for today. The self-awareness part and part of the mastermind is designed more about you and being vulnerable to say, here's who I am, and to realize areas and the little steps you can take so you'll be more complete and whole, can use the different lenses. Because the best leaders are able to navigate through all the lenses. And two, they're able to find, without saying, like StrengthsFinder would say, you're strong here, weak here, find people that are stronger. They're using, this model is using the emotional intelligence side where you can still be more holistic. That doesn't mean you may never be a pure dynamo if you're not a dynamo, but you can be closer and you can use some of the lens. So thinking about this, yeah, I like that one. Less laundry, more shopping. No, less. You got me. My own wife's getting me confused here. Less paperwork, more quality time. Less complaining, adding negativity to a situation, more encouraging, finding solutions. Amen. This is some good shares. Real leadership growth is not about trying to be everything to everyone, but just doing what really matters to most. Is there any strategies out there anyone would like to share that they use to help them? More communication, less individualism. Very good. And one of the keys to using the lenses is the greatest challenge of leadership, because the hardest person to lead is the person in the mirror that you look at. And we only have so much time in a day. And when I look at people, I can find people that own 3 companies, write books, and do all this. And I'm like, how are they doing that? But they use their time so effectively, or they have teams and supports. But it's amazing at the things that some people can, hours they have in a day. But Cash, good. Best strategy is to understand your people and think about them first. I have some modules on the platinum rule, and that's a rule that I love, because most people in every culture, you have a golden rule that says you're going to treat others the way you want to be treated. But then after you get to know them, you shift to the platinum rule, where you treat them the way they want to be treated. Reward systems, duties, jobs, recognition. We have so many different styles, and it's nice to be able to connect with people and give them what they need to help them feel valued and where they belong. Thank you for the shares. Okay, ready for your assessment? Let's see if you're a dynamo. My to-do list ghosted me. I'm warming up and the coffee's helping. Momentum's building, but not full throttle yet. But the wheels are turning. And last but not least, I'm running on purpose, not caffeine. I'm full speed ahead, unstoppable right now. Anyone at 4? Monica, you're dynamo. You're get it done. You're always going to get it done. That's your style. Any other dynamos?
Doc, I
The
feel like this
dynamo.
describes me well, but I would say I'm a get it started, not a good get it finished. And so that's the earlier you asked for strategies, and that's one thing I've definitely done is surround myself with people who will take it from 15,000 feet to ground level.
Very good, Jerry. It takes all 4 lenses. These lenses are universal. So your team, Casey, is the dynamo team. The dynamo is the one that you're like, I don't know who to handle this off to, but I know they'll get it done. They'll figure it out.
Absolutely, we are that team. We have generated more processes and more changes throughout our company than any other 2 stores combined.
That says a lot, because you're in a very competitive field. One thing I love about masterminds like this is people that are in this room, you're going to be well above the norm for leaders, because you're taking action. You're here at night when other people are not. But the power multiplies when we're together and connecting and just listening and learning from others in a place where you can be vulnerable. And I just want to say, I know we're just getting started good in the class, but thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself and also to invest in the growth of others, because we do have people from different industries, different levels of leadership, but we can all share and learn together. And all it takes is 1 or 2 ideas and that you take and run with and implement. And that helps so much in just changing your growth trajectory as a leader. The big thing I want to stress again, you've heard me say already about the CAM model, is that the people come last because in reality, they're first. And all the lenses, they're not the lenses that you hear and think of a visionary as just somebody just has vision and no reality, but the lenses are designed with a results orientation. So when we're talking about it, it's about a results orientation. So when we go to our final lens, it's the collaborator. This is the person who is our connector. They understand that trust isn't soft, it's the strongest form a strategy. Now, who in the room, show of hands, if you're the person who naturally tunes into people, you can read the room, you notice their body language, their shifts. This is your forte. And you're good about checking in with people before you move ahead. Hey, Allison, you got your hand up by all means. Brian, good. Good. Thanks for acknowledging that. Now, sometimes if you're a pure collaborator, others may think, man, that person cares too much. They're just too caring. But in reality, your collaborator is one of the best people you can have to help shape your culture of your organization because people know they care. People go to them. They know they're part of the heartbeat of the team. They know the pulse of the team. They know when things need to be slowed down. They know when to check in. These folks are good to have if you're a visionary leader, or especially if you're a dynamo leader, because they can come to you and say, boss, I need to talk. You're just going way too fast. And I am so glad I have the collaborators. And they're not, going back to the lenses, they're designed to be around a results orientation. So it's not the fluffy frou-frou person that plays golf all day and hits people on the back or just socializes all the time. This is the person that connecting to the team, connecting to people is their strategy. It's what they love. All dynamo and collaborator. And that's something, Monica, most people are going to have a dominant lens. They're going to have another lens close. And then you can be more balanced and flat as you evolve as a person. But the first thing is figuring out where you're at. One thing I love about thinking about the collaborator is Peter Drucker has a famous quote that now they're saying he never said, but I'm going to give credit to Peter Drucker. He says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And as a leader, you can have all the vision statements, missions, and values and norms, and that doesn't mean anything because there's another culture. It's the real culture of the organization. And the dynamo is the one that can help you to build the culture, bridge what's on paper with reality and make it a reality so you have the culture that you really want. They thrive on connecting people, building trust, building relationships. Their whole question about life is who must be on this journey with me and how can I serve them? How can I support them? They create a place that has psychological safety. They have to bridge that communication and empathy. So when you're the leader and you're talking and it's like Greek to your other employees, they may not come to you, but they'll go to the collaborator and the collaborator can do the interpretation for them. They help to build trust. They nurture the culture. Blind spots, though, and this is on the extremes. You have some folks that simply are afraid of conflict, and conflict is natural. If you don't have conflict, something is wrong because when you have very bright people with good ideas, they're going to have creative tension and conflict, just not outright conflict. They often struggle to say no. A lot of your collaborators I've coached, their biggest issue is they burn out because they serve everyone in the world and don't take care of themselves. They just cannot say no, and they're just always doing stuff. And they'll confuse harmony or people playing nice or pretending to play nice with a healthy culture. And sometimes you have to dig in and ask the deeper questions. And they may delay hard feedback. They don't hurt someone's feelings. So that's the extremes. Their phrases, they're going to say, how's everyone feeling? Let's make sure everyone's included. We'll get through all this together. I'm showing my cards here, but there's times where you'll hear someone in the middle of a project and everyone's agreed on it. You've even got your visionaries aligned to your structure people, and they've agreed on the structures. And you get to go, and then the collaborator says, can we stop and see how everyone feels? And you're like, we've already got into this project. We can't stop now. We can't turn back. We can check on people, but we've got to finish this. There's times where you just can't stop, and there's times where you do stop. So as a leader, I've got to make sure that I'm able to balance out and meet the needs of my collaborator. Some of the overuses, consensus on everything. And I'll share this. This is a view that we have of our team. It's worked with us on consensus. Everyone has a voice in my cabinet to say what they think, and we want them to share, and we want to share the blind spots, the icebergs, and things they see. But when we lock in, it doesn't mean we'll have everyone voting the same way, but it means we've all had a chance to vet and we've shaped based around the feedback. But when we lock in, we're all aligned. We're going to be aligned to an action. And if it's a very difficult decision, I'm going to go around the table and have everyone now. How do you feel about this? Are you okay with it? What do you see is wrong? And they may not be all just thumbs up, but they're going to at least be able to live with it. They're not going to thumbs down. And we're able to reach consensus, though. And it's nice having all the different opinions because that helps you to see the blind spots and things you would never see. Overuse, wanting to be liked, not having hard conversations. Underuse, making difficult decisions about inputs. There's on the other extreme, you got somebody just making decisions without even getting people's opinions, which is dangerous. The other extreme is you put task over people, and you got to balance that out. And one thing I think in our organization, we're trying to do better, but I think we can all do a better job of pausing and just taking time to recognize people and celebrate the little things. It doesn't have to always be big, but just celebrating each other. And then another underuse is acting in isolation. Collaborators, they're going to lead with a high sense of awareness, that moral purpose of working with people, showing empathy. They're going to connect. They don't manage. They're going to connect. They're going to know everything about their employees, what they like, don't like. They're going to know how they think, and they're going to really make sure that they connect with them. Now, this is our last assessment for tonight. So far, you guys have all passed 3 tests, so let's see if we can pass the last one. Collaborators. First one is, I'm on airplane mode all by myself. Second one is, I'm actually waving from the group chat, but the camera's still off. Now, we don't have any cameras off, I don't believe. The next one is, I'm in a group chat, but I'm not going to type anything, but I do occasionally pick out an emoji. Even if I don't know what the emoji is, I'm sending it out. Then, are you emoji pros here? I'm going to share this. I had a very bad experience with emojis. They started coming out, and I was so excited. And someone said, do you know what you're doing? I said, what do you mean? They said, well, what have you been sending people? I said, well, I don't know. I said, well, think. I said, well, I've been sending them the smiley face. I've been sending them a little smiley Hershey's kiss. And I've been sending the poop emoji thinking it was a little Hershey's kiss I had as a kid. So I've been sending them crap. So I don't send many emojis. And then the last one is the chief connection officer reporting for duty. Okay, so we got some 3.5s, 1s, 2.5s. We're going all over the spectrum here. 2.5, several 2.5s. The chocolate ice cream, 4. Now, the one thing I will say, this is an area where I would challenge everyone to just be cognizant of this. Even if it stretches you, this is an area where probably most of us need to grow because we're going to have some great employees in the next few years, but they're going to come at us from a different viewpoint than anything we've ever seen before. And that's going to be our teenagers and our people in early 20s. And they're the ones that the kids we have at our schools, they work so hard and are so smart, but they need to know the why. They need to see the connection. They need to see the purpose. And they're in a generation where it's not, well, you told me to do it, I'm going to do it. Well, why is it important? How does it relate? And it's just a different world. And for us to be successful, we're going to have to evolve because that's going to be the people that are working with us. Now, one activity, and we're not going to do this in class, but I want you to glance at this on pages 9 and 10. And I'm loading you up with things in the workbook. This is not a class where you go and do all this stuff. It's where you look at the workbook and there's some great activities, and you may use some of them with your team. You may use them individually. But this is kind of just a self-awareness check-in that I thought you might really like. So we have it prepared for you in the workbook. And then we do have an activity. Do we need, question for you, we're trying to do our best to stay on time. Do we need a bathroom break or are we good to keep going? Okay. If you need him, you're out of. So if you need to step away for a minute, that's fine. We're fine with that. We want you to be able to have water and coffee or whatever you need. It's okay for eating a snack. This is a very laid back environment. Okay, before we go into breakout rooms, reflect on this for a second. We've been talking about the different lenses. Is there one lens that is like, this is me all the way? Or are you the person that you have two where you're like, I might be this one, I might be this one here, or in certain situations, I may be this, or it might be that at home I'm more one way than the other. But thinking about that, because the CAM is one that you can take it and you can be planning out a financial plan for your family. You and your spouse can sit down and say, what's our vision? What have we got to put in place? And how are we going to make it happen? I mean, you can use this for a lot of things. It's not just a model where you use it in a leadership domain. And there may be some of you feel like, really, I'm balanced or I'm real close to being balanced. There may be situations where if you reflect that you're not as balanced. So there's no right or wrong answer. The main thing is just knowing yourself and being aware of where you're at and thinking about how can I take some steps that could help me to be more balanced. And being balanced, it does not just happen magically, but it happens over time. It helps when you are able to be self-aware and take steps to improve. Okay, when we go into our breakouts, we're going to have breakout rooms with 3 people. And this is probably the best part of the night because the breakout rooms are always good. And we're going to have 15 minutes in the breakout rooms. Team's going to have instructions for you so you can see them with you. Plus, the instructions are in the handbook. But in the breakout rooms, it's going to give you you're going to have 3 people in a room, about 5 minutes to think about the lenses as far as what are your lenses and when do they show up best, maybe when they don't show up as well. And with the teammates you have, thinking about your team, would they agree with you on your lenses? Or if you look at your family, would they agree with you on your lenses? And then reflecting, just thinking about step 2 is just thinking of a blind spot. What's the blind spot that I have? What's my dominant lens? What would frustrate others and what might slow people down with my lens? What's good about my lens? And then what's the lens that you really need to flex towards more? And then the big insight at the end, the big share is my biggest strength is it might be as a dynamo is my whatever with a dynamo, and my growth edge is this, where I want to grow. Or it could be as a visionary, I'm a visionary, my greatest strength is whatever the visionary. And then what would be one simple step you could take to help you to grow towards that other area you want to grow towards? So the total time is 15 minutes. Brooke, are we ready to go to breakout rooms? Okay, we're going to transition to breakout rooms. We'll have people jumping into rooms with you. Just be vulnerable, be honest, and share. Remember, what goes on in the mastermind stays in the mastermind. Well, welcome back from the breakout rooms, everyone. Did you enjoy? You do a wave of hands if you enjoy just working in the rooms. That's it. I mean, that's being able to be in a room in a breakout room. Is just a good thing being able to share. Who would like to share a takeaway maybe from the breakout room? Don't be bashful.
So I would like to share here.
Thank you,
I got a
McCann.
chance to speak to the two new person. I never met them. I am meeting them very, very first time with them. And they are so amazing people, and their experiences are really so inspiring. And I think if they, in very short span of time, I'm really impressed with their experiences and what they have achieved in their life. And it also inspires me a lot because I'm a good learner too. So I think, when we are sharing, exchanging the thoughts with the people who is coming from the different time zone, from the different culture, work culture, it gives you a lot of ideas if you have the same challenges or the same problem. Though I have not got that much of time to, discuss more on having in my mind, but my takeaway is that this is something inspiring, and in 10-15 minutes I have learned a lot from them, and what is my learning. So I know that I definitely work on something other things that I have to do. And the third thing is that, I really appreciate your work, Dr. Chell, that this kind of session is really much needed, is required, and especially the breakout room activity, because there, when you have two, three people never met each other doing it first times, it's really exciting for them. It excites them, and it make a lot of sense. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And Mukesh adds a lot of value to the room. He's in India. He's an ed tech leader, passionate about education and leadership. And he has a coalition of folks from multiple countries, from Australia to the UK, Ireland, the States, Mexico, Singapore. And Mukesh, I know I'm missing several, but when we're on global Zooms, it's amazing at the team that you assemble. Uh, Thank you for sharing. Any other shares for the breakouts?
I'll share that, kind of goes along with what Casey said, but Chris really emphasized that, it is so important to have that balance of all four at various times, and to use all four of those things at various times, because uh, it just, our world's too fast paced to live in just one. And then, that 95% of people believe they're self-aware that you have there on your slide. I think, one of our people said, I'm going to have to go back and ask, how do people perceive me? And I know I have always been blessed with people who are very honest with me. And boy, I've had to have that, and feel like the Lord's put me in some situations to definitely know when I'm living in one and missing other areas. So, like I said, that balanced approach very important, and knowing when to lean on one versus the other.
Jerry, that's some good observations. Just being self-aware and knowing that you can operate in all four lenses. There may be a lens that is never going to be your dominant lens, but being able to navigate enough, and also to know when you exceed your capacity and it's time to get someone to help you that's really stronger in that lens. Or when you're onboarding for your teams, looking for different lenses to make sure you have a balanced team. Very good. Now, on the last part of when I'm thinking about my slide and thinking about things, being able to look for the blind spots, not just for you, but also for your team, making sure that they're not underrepresented or missing. And that can put you in a vulnerable way too. Any other insights as far as the breakout rooms, the things you shared?
I just really like to share. I just really enjoyed the perspective. And I know, like, when just life gets so busy, like for me, this time of year, this has been really nice just to kind of get back and just reflect on some of the different things, just getting to learn tonight. So this has been really great. So I really appreciate it.
Brian, I'm glad you said that. We get so busy in all of our roles that it's easy to neglect ourselves and invest in ourselves. And the more you invest in yourself, the more you have for your team. And we can read books and oh, you can't pour from an empty cup and all that, but it's it's easy to get a closet full of books and bookshelves full of books. But then at the end of the day, you're like, I didn't implement it. And I've done that myself. I'm like, I've read all the books I need to read. Why am I not doing the things I've read that I know I need to do? And sometimes being around people that are, especially on the journey I want to be on, that they're doing something really, really well. And they don't have to be a veteran leader. You can find someone that's doing something so well. You're like, I need to learn more from you. Can you tell me more about this? And that helps me to steal ideas from others. And it's a lot better than being in isolation. Now, as we start transitioning, the CAM model, we won't go a lot into teams tonight, but the critical alignment model it's designed for you to use individually and with your teams. And there's a lot of it that helps you with just the self-reflection piece, but it's not just about all self-reflection, but it gives you this shared language for diagnosing, solving challenges together. It helps you to ensure when you've got a team working on this to have that balance of being a visionary and understanding why things work and ensure that your team members understand the why. It helps you to give clarity through the architectural lens, which turns goals into structure. And it helps you to have that dynamo energy to keep people accountable and get momentum going. Accountability is not bad when it's done the right way. And then two, have a culture that's built on trust, sustainability, where people are valued, where you have all the data that informs you of where you're at, but it's not about being data-based. It's about using data to help you guide where you're going, but your people come first. And when your team's able to look at the different lenses and not just, even though I put on the slide, look at the lenses that are underrepresented, but to also identify in this situation, which lens do we need more of? Because there's different times where you apply different lenses in a more balanced way or more dominant way of one lens. That helps you to have a lot of traction instead of friction. This is not something we're going to do in class. This is in your workbook where we actually have a self-assessment for you and a self-assessment for your team that you can look at and use. And they're on pages 14 through 18 in the workbook. They're very simple metrics where you score things out and you can look at the CAM for yourself. And then also you can look at it for your team. And I've had people to use tools like this that are made with their teams before when they've had discussions about the CAM and just looking at their team and reflecting on where they're at and how they can use them better. So you have that as an activity built into your workbook. And then this is a lot of language on the slide, more language on the words on the slide than I need to have for you. But one thing I have for you before our next session is the metadynamics mini assessment. And some of you may be saying, what is a metadynamics assessment? But the critical alignment model we looked at tonight helps you to see yourself clearly and lead more intentionally. There's a metadynamics mini tool that's a profiling system that helps you understand a lot about how you think, not just what you do. It's one of the best tools I've ever used. And I've been working with it for a little while now. I really like it because it helps you to identify your thinking patterns and how you think and the patterns that sit behind your decisions and your conversations, kind of how you're wired. The tools have been around for about 20 years. It is based off of one of the oldest assessments out there called the Big Five. It is developed by the Coaching Institute out of Australia, and they've been using it for roughly 20 years. And it's a little different from other personality tests that focus on the persona that outside of you, because it does focus more on how you think, how you operate. And with the meta patterns of the visionary, the architect, dynamo, and collaborator, helps you to align directly into the model we talked about tonight. So you have a model we talked about tonight, then we have the meta profile. And when you identify your patterns, you can see the patterns that are maybe you're over dominant in and need to work towards others. And part of the class will be to unpack your meta and then later do a values assessment so you can look at the values you have and say, what are your values you say versus real values? So we can have an individualized growth plan around your personality, your values, where you just find a few things you work on to have a trajectory for better growth and better balance. The assessment I have at the bottom of the slide, the link to it, and there's a code for you, and you'll take the assessment. And the best thing I would say is when you take the assessment, find a time where you're not busy, you're not stressed, you're just a good day, like a weekend day where it's calm. Take about 30 seconds, 25 seconds. If you start going over 35 seconds a question or overthinking it, don't overanalyze it. Just take the test. There's no right or wrong answers. And then you'll get the results, and then we'll talk about how you interpret it in our next class. And then as far as between now and our next class. Our next class is on December the 9th. So we have a few days. You'll have a great Thanksgiving. And then right after that, you have a little time before, and then we'll come back to our next class. But I'll send you an email. It'll take a few days for one person to process the video, but you'll have access to the video from tonight. You'll have the slides in the video. You'll have that. And also, I'm asking you between now and then, the workbook's got all the different activities. Just find one thing you like, you want to try, or not. If not that, I'll have a few questions in the email, just like, what's your biggest takeaway from tonight? What's something you're going to apply? What's one step you're taking? And then when we start our next class, one thing that we'll do is just kind of start off with any wins you've had and start off with celebrations. What are some activities you tried or things you've been working on? And if you're busy and you haven't tried any of it, that's okay. I understand that. This is not college. It's not like you got homework. But the more you invest in yourself and find one or two little things along the way that connect with you, and there'll be things in the workbook that you'll say, I'll never do that. That doesn't fit my style. But you'll find something that will work for you. The more you try that, the better you're going to be building your leadership capacity. But our next session, we'll start off with celebrations. We'll look at the meta profiles and talk about that and have a breakout activity around it. We'll have a small portion about teams and how you use the meta with teams. And then we'll start setting the stage for our third session, which is a values unpack. And then this class, just a few tidbits. We've got a lot of technology. You can tell a lot of automations in the emails. If something's quirky or not working, please let us know if something's off, because we're using Go High Level, which is a great tool. A lot of people use it, but it takes a little while to get everything automated perfectly. Our main day will be for emails to go out on a Tuesday or Thursday, depending on the class, usually Tuesdays. We won't be sending anything on weekends. And then we typically will have a short email that goes out the day before. It's just a reminder email the day of, because I've learned if you don't have reminder emails, people get so busy. And the next thing you know, they're realizing, I just missed the class last night. I don't want you to miss the class. But if you miss a class, you'll get the videos, because I know we have people with all kinds of jobs. And then if you've been through the class tonight and you like it, and you have someone you think might like the class, we had a few people that simply could not make it tonight. They're going to watch the videos, and I'm going to have a little mini class for them. So there's still ways for people to join. And then I am very flexible. I have a newsletter out there that I have. So if there's things out there that you feel like I could add for future classes or write about, or things you want in this class, please give me feedback, because we're here to design the class and the sessions where you have flexibility to embed things in that you want to talk about, because we want this to be relevant for you. And I do have another series I'm working on for the spring, so I can very easily, I'm open to ideas is what I'm trying to say. And then for those of you who weren't in my last master class, my cell phone, I'll give it to you if you don't have it. Monica, will you put it in the chat so you can grab it? But you're more than welcome to have my cell phone. If you need me, you can text or call. I say text and say who you are, because I get a lot of just spam text, and I'll just block it if I don't know who you are. And then one thing I do want to add and plant some seeds now. On the 15th of January, we'll have Refuel to Rise. And Monica, my wife, is going to teach that. I'll help a little, but she's going to do the bulk of it. And she is a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And then she taught and was a mentor for over 10 years, like a mentor, like a graduation coach, and doing a lot of mentoring and coaching. So she's going to have a class. And that's one class, knowing the time of the year and how that can be a challenging time right after the holidays. Anyone in this class, I'm going to give you the green light to invite 2 friends for that class that can attend. It can be someone that's on your team, someone that's a friend of yours. Someone say something. Okay. But I just want to know, I've enjoyed tonight. I can't wait for us to meet in a few weeks and be able to just hear your celebrations and to look at your meta profiles with you and to dig into them. And I hope all of you in the States have a great Thanksgiving. Mukesh, I don't think you have a Thanksgiving in India, but we're going to have some turkey and a big Thanksgiving here next week, since it's our big holiday week. But any questions as we wrap up, or any final words? Okay, well, I want to thank you for being here and celebrate yourselves for taking the time out to just pause and learn and grow together. And this has been a great first class, and thank you for being part of the Mastermind. Have a good night.